How much? Energy conservation.
Okay, so we are good to go. We are live.
Okay.
Hey,
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending the meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we could you could remain seated if you like, and we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the
and
flag,
the republic for which it
which stands
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you could just remain silent for the moment, we have a few moment of silence to read for you. We have several people that has passed away, and we want to recognize them. Barbara Marbury's brother, John Speeds, Mary Ann and Amanda Van Rin's dad and grandfather, respectively. Tim Ali's dad, Lori Moser's sister, Chris Felicello's dad, Norman Sepulveda, retired North Rockland vice principal. Three parents of children in the district whose parents have three parents that have passed away of children in the district. Maria Dutan, Janessa Rosa, and Otilio Obrigo. And also, I'd just like to take a moment for all those who have recently passed away for the COVID-19 virus. Thank you all very much. May I have the roll call, please?
Mr. Hernandez,
Present.
Mrs. Gaddy,
Here.
Mr. Kraus,
here,
Mrs. Manini,
Here.
Mr. Mazziello,
Here?
Mrs. Romano. Here. Mrs. Zugabe.
Here.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. May I have a motion to accept the agenda, please?
So moved.
Moved by Mary, second by Ida. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. This evening we have, well, actually, for board member reports, Mr. Fernandez.
Yeah, Mr. Mazziello, just a couple items. First, you just read a long list of people that we know have passed away, that we know of that passed away, and our community is struggling very much at this time. It's very trying times, and there's a lot of anguish and anxiety. And on behalf of the Board of Education, I really want to thank all our staff, from administrators, superintendent, down to our teachers, to the civil service workers. Everybody has done a tremendous job, and the parents and the students in our community and caretakers have done a magnificent job staying together during this trying and very difficult time. A new way of learning was incorporated in the district like in a week and a half, and amazing stuff has been done every day. We are so proud to see videos from the principals, from the schools, from the teachers, encouraging our students and offering many services and helping to make the best out of the situation, which is not a perfect situation. We would never expect it to be in this situation, but making the best of it, and everyone is trying to do their best. And I just want to, on behalf of the Board of Education, just say thank you to everyone, from the district to the community, our precious students, and everyone involved. Thank you so much for making this happen in spite of the circumstances. We know many people are in anguish and fear out there, not know what's going to happen, but we just hope and wish the best for everyone. Also, on a lighter note, And this was good news. Today we received a message. The Northampton Music Department received the Best Communities for Music Education Award from NAM, the National Association of Music Merchants Foundation. We have an awesome music department, and we are so proud of them for receiving this award. And that's all I have, Mr. Masiello.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Do we have any other board member reports?
Just one quick comment. This is Jim Kraus. In these extremely trying times, let's please not forget the next 10 years and try to everybody complete the census online. However, if you get it in the mail, just don't forget, it is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus.
If I could say something,
Yes, Mrs. Romano, please.
I would also like to thank all the members of our community that are nurses and doctors and first responders and supermarket employees and anybody that's essential workers that have to be working during these days. It's so much appreciated. We hold you in our hearts and in our prayers, and we thank you for the work that you're doing to support our community.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, if there are no more board member reports, we're going to presentations. And Ileana, Mrs. Eckert, we have the budget presentation first. It's on, Mrs. Eckert, are you available?
I was muted, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Kraus, for reminding everyone about the census. It's going to be in my weekly reminder that we filmed this week on Friday. It certainly is important that everyone in the midst of this remembers that that's going on in the background, and more than ever, I think every community is going to need resources after this is over. So we really want to make sure that everyone in our community is counted and that we don't miss on any resources that could be coming our way that will be certainly needed. Also to the music department, we all know how we feel about our music department. That's a national award. We couldn't be more proud of them. We know how deserving both students and teachers are of that award. And it certainly brightened my day when I saw that email today that we were being recognized for one of the communities for great music education. All right, the budget presentation. Ed, if you could advance, thank you. Today we'll be talking about the governor and legislative state aid proposals, the tax levy cap that we're proposing, our proposed 2021 budget, the budget, tax levy, and fund balance history, our staffing projections heading into next year, and the rest of the budget presentation dates. As you know, the budget vote and elections have been, as of now, pushed back to no sooner than June 1st. So that has adjusted our entire budget timeline in terms of when the hearing is required and when the adoption is required. That could change again, depending on how the situation goes here in New York. But for now, the latest guidance from the governor is that it will take place no earlier than June 1st. Go ahead, Ed. All right. As you know, on a good year, the budget is a moving target, especially since so many of our categories are refundable aids, which means that we get a percentage back of what we spend, BOCES being one of them, transportation being another, hardware, technology, software. All those categories are expense-based aids. Therefore, it's not really a fixed number, but the state looks at what you spend the year prior and then projects what you might be spending the following year. So all that being said, back in January, if you look at the middle there where it says governor, back in January, we knew that based on the governor's proposed budget, we were due to increase by almost a third of a percent for $221,846. now based COVID later, as we call it now, based on the crisis that we've all are experiencing in the state. And we know that it's definitely costing money. We know that it's going to impact on the tax revenue that the state is going to be able to collect. So when I say it's a moving target, more than ever it is, not only because our reimbursable aids are going to be a moving target, being that we're closed for possibly up to 3 months and won't be spending what we would have spent, but also the state, the governor has made it very clear that based on the state's own finances, he reserves the right to quarterly examine what the state aid to schools will be. The first of that quarterly look at is actually this April. So they will be looking at our aid for this April, what we're due to get this April. They will be looking at the aid in June. They will be looking at it in December and then again in March of 2021. So those are the 4 quarterly times that we have been advised that the governor will take a look at the budget, what's coming into the state, what the state is paying out, and then if and when school aid will be adjusted. So based on the now adopted budget for the state, if you look at that next yellow bottom line, you'll see that we've gone from getting 221,000 to now actually being on the minus side for $2,207,767. Now, most of those aid numbers, if you look at our kindergarten aid, of course, we dropped from 65% to now the last year at 35, and then next year we will get nothing in that line. If you look at our BOCES aid, again, that number could change because it's based on what we actually will spend from here to the end of the year. But we're down right now to drop 778,000 in that line. And then when you look down below at that 612 under building aid, those are actually bonds that are retiring. So of course you're not going to get a aid on that because the bond is actually being paid off. So that's really a recap of where we stand and what our estimated total package of state aid will be as of next year.
And if I'm correct, you're stating that it's going to be adjusted quarterly this time.
The governor has said that he reserves the right to, that he's going to have to reserve the right to adjust that quarterly.
Okay.
So, you know, God willing, we all come back. Everything is healthy. The state is healthy. The people go out, the businesses come back, and everybody spends a lot of money. It could be a good thing. If things come back slowly and businesses continue to be closed and revenue continues to be lost, then it could be, you know, that we lose additional aid throughout the year.
I see.
When
Ms.
we,
Becker,
yes,
it's Mrs. Gatti.
yes.
I didn't understand why this particular set of runs cut our BOCES aid, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but we seem to spend a similar amount each and every year for BOCES.
It's not unusual, Deb, because it's a projected number. That doesn't mean that they'll cut it. Definitely, if we spend whatever we spend, we'll get our reimbursement based on our allotted percentage. But for now, that's the projection that they used for our run.
All right, thank you.
And that's what we filled out that we spent so far.
I have a question. It's Peggy.
Yes.
Number one, my first question is, how does the federal stimulus money figure in? And my second question is, if we're going to use fund balance to plug that now hole, is that going to put us back with our gap being greater again?
I'm coming to that question right now, Peg. But in terms of your first one, in terms of the stimulus, I believe and Mike is here with me, he could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the way I heard that is that they took the stimulus money and pretty much supplanted it.
That's what I thought.
From the foundation aid and then did our run. So it's not that the 1.2 billion was added above what the state had, but they supplanted that 1.2 billion in their budget.
I thought so. I just wanted everybody to be clear who's listening in.
Yes,
Thank-
because I know people got excited when they saw that the stimulus package was adding 1.2 billion, and that was seen as good news, but I think the state reshifted. And, you know, I have spoken or texted with Senator Skoufis, who did say that many departments were slashed by 10 to 25%. So keeping a status quo was actually like a win because many departments saw severe cuts under this budget.
Thank you.
So, tax levy cap, yep,
Mr.
Mike?
Mike, see this, that the proposal full impact of the loss of full-day kindergarten aid is felt.
yeah,
So.
no, I did say that, yeah.
Yeah.
Tax levy cap, if you look at the actual, that's the second column from the left where it says actual 2019, 2020, and then the projected for next year, 2020, 2021. If you see that, if we run our tax levy cap formula this year, we would have been allowed under the formula to increase our tax levy cap $3,573,973 or 2.35%. That is staying within the cap formula. However, we've done a lot of talking here, and I know some conversations with the board as well.
Mhm.
We all know, as Rich so well expressed, the situation that we're all facing as not only as a community, but as a state and as a nation. And we really feel that if there's ever a year where we need to hold expenses down for our taxpayers, is this year. So we are proposing that we adopt a zero increase, zero tax levy for next year's budget. And you'll see what that does to our reserves in a minute, Peg. You asked that question. But, you know, if you look at the past couple of years, we've had a healthy increase in the levy for 4.9% 2 years ago, 2.5 last year. And now this year we would have been able to go up again, 2.3. But again, you'll see in a minute why we think it's important that we give the community a break this year. Many people are out of work in our community. Many people have reduced incomes in our community. And we have done, I think, a good job budgeting the last few years to be able to put away some reserves. And this is the time, I think, to give them back to the community. Under the proposed budget, the next slide you'll see there, you'll see the first one was the proposed budget with the 2.3 tax levy increase. And you'll see there that the numbers that are important is the 155 million. That would have been the increase in the levy. The levy is right now 152 million. If we went up that 2.3%, it would have been 155. So the other number that you'll see it's important there is the use of fund balance. If we did that, we would only have to use $4.6 million in fund balance. And that's with increasing, that was increasing a $2.1 million transfer to capital to do those rooftops and to do those vent that have to be done in North Rockland High School. Both of those items are related to the climate control in the high school. As we know, they're severely dated, they're corroding away, and they're not fixable at this point. And it's something that really has worried us over the years. We're replacing 3 of them this summer.
Correct.
But this amount will actually replace all the univents and will help us replace a significant number of the rooftop units. The next one, the March 2020 proposal number 2 is the proposal with a zero tax levy in it. And again, you'll see the significant numbers there dropping from the 155 in the levy to the 152. So that is remaining at where the levy is this year. But you'll see there that that would be a fund balance use of 8,100,000. However, remember that 2,100,000 of that is a one-time use for the repair of those rooftop units, which again would be at no additional cost to taxpayers because that money is in our reserves.
Okay.
So, and we will get aid on that over the next 18 years. We will get our 65% or so aid that we get on that. So we would get payments on that building aid over the next 18 years. So some of that will be coming actually back to us.
Okay, can we put a star on that next time so that the star means the building aid is included?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Great.
In the April 2020, you'll see now our third and proposed with the cut aid. There are several numbers that are important there. We did go back and trimmed the budget a little more, knowing what we're heading into in terms of a fiscal crisis in the state and therefore for the district. So you'll see a reduction of 1.6 million there. We still actually increased a little bit the transfer to capital. And again, that's money that will be coming back. It allows us to do possibly another few units at the high school. And the reason we were able to do that is that our insurance costs came in a little lower than anticipated. So we were able to transfer some of that money that we would have had to pay insurance to actually do more of those units that have to be done. But you'll see there that the increase with all of that would have been 2.4% budget to budget increase. However, underneath in the blue, you see that without the capital, so without the 2.5 million, that's really a one-time expense that's already covered in our reserves, our real budget to budget increase this year is 1.3. It's one of the leanest budgets that we've had. We were able to do that together with a lot of thinking, with a lot of trimming in areas that again don't impact education. But it's I think for the times that we're facing, a reasonable budget.
Yeah.
And again, there'll be no levy increase. With the failed budget, unfortunately, we would not be the only change you'll see there with a failed budget. Actually, the budget to budget increase is 1.2. But we would not be able to do the units at the high school. We would not obviously be able to buy any other equipment or do field trips. Those are the things that you cannot do in a failed budget. Mr. Seno and I were talking with a budget. If we do have a budget vote in June, we're concerned with, if a budget fails, the availability of a second budget vote. Because as you know, our new fiscal year begins July 1st. So I think what we're proposing is, just right for the situation that we find ourselves in. It's one of the leanest budgets that we've had again. And again, we're going out with a 0% tax levy increase, which again, I think is important. Now, it does mean, Peggy, that we will be using 9.3 in fund balance, but remember that 2.5 of that is non-recurring. And hopefully after we come out of this, remember, we're getting no state aid this year whatsoever. I would hope that in years to come, we would get a little more in state aid and therefore, be able to bring that number down again. But we do have it right now in reserves to be able to accomplish all that work at the high school and be able to give the taxpayers a break on no increase in their levy.
Mrs. Eckert,
Yes.
I don't understand the blue line that says proposed budget percentage increase. If we're not increasing anything without the capital money, why is it a 1.32% increase? What am I missing?
There are increases because you have to cover your increases in contractual. Remember, our rollover up on top, Deb?
Rollover.
Over amount is 4.6.
Right.
Just taking all our expenses from this year and rolling with any contractual expenditures that we have, any raises for employees, any raises in ERS and TRS. So our rollover number is 4.6.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
we've made reductions in other places in order to absorb some of that so that the increase could be 1.3.
Mrs. Eckert,
Go ahead, Rich.
I just wanted to say that I think it's excellent we have no increase in our tax levy. I think it's very wise that we don't increase it. Just want to say one thing though, with the equalization rate, sometimes who pays what, sometimes there's a little shift. So we might say we have a 0% increase in our tax levy, which is true, but one town may end up paying something more or something less because the state decides how that tax levy is going to be split up and who pays what. And there's where sometimes there's confusion. Hey, Rich, you told me 0% increase, but I paid $10 more than last year. How come? And that's the reason why. Well, I paid $50 less. I thought there was going to be no change. And that's why, because the state, when they come in with the equalization rate for the both towns, they determine how it's split up between the two towns.
You're right, Rich. All we could say is that the money that we're collecting from taxpayers is exactly the same as what we collected this year. But how that shakes out when you live, when the district covers two towns, how that shakes out in the two towns, you're absolutely right. The equalization rate will determine that. And I'm sure in the assessments, if you have new construction, if you have more, if new businesses open up, it all affects that. So you're absolutely right in saying that even a 0% tax levy increase could translate to Stony Point paying 1% and the town of Haverstraw having a -5, or it could flip the other way around like it has in the past, back and forth. The Stony Point has a minus and the town of Haverstraw has an increase. So we'll wait to see when the towns, as you know, we don't control those numbers. We get them from the assessor's office at both the town of Haverstraw and Stony Point. So once we get those, we'll be able to determine what the actual percentage increase is for homeowners and businesses in both towns.
Hi, just a general question. Have we heard anything at all, murmurings about the kinds of contributions we're going to have to make to the retirement system after the stock market has crumbled? I know it's a little premature for that, but I know you folks are in contact with Albany, and I wondered if there'd been any rumors about that.
The TRS?
Yes.
TRS and ERS.
Yeah.
Both
Yeah.
are fixed for this year.
We
but next
have
year-
both for this year, Jim. I think the ERS, the employee, was pretty much flat and the
Yeah.
TRS went up a little bit.
Right. I know. they've been
But
good.
they did warn us that even in their 5-year projection, before this all happened, in their 5-year projection, both were supposed to be increasing in the next 5 years. So now after this, yes, I agree with you. Next year could be a big hit on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. The next one, Ed. So again, our fund balance history here, we know that we were very proud of where we were and where we've come this year, using under $4 million, which is pretty much what under any circumstances, any district may contribute toward their fund balance. If you see there next year, it looks like a big jump. It is a big jump, but it is a 1-year use of that fund balance. Again, 2.5 of that, it's a 1-year addition to fix those things at the high school. And the other is in tax, another 3.5 in tax. So we really are not spiking if we go back to, again, a normal year next year in terms of going after whatever the tax levy increases allow us to.
Thank God for our reserves, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Correct. That's why it's so important.
That's why you need them. That's why you need
Exactly why you need them. You cannot run
So
it.
now we could tell them that when they say why we have it.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes. If not, we'll be crashing and burning and shutting down almost everything in the district.
yes.
You know,
So
it's
it's
exactly
years
why we
like
need.
this that you really need to help your taxpayers, that you have that, or for years that like it's happening, you have a terrible budget year at the state and you don't want to, like Rich said, you don't want to crash and burn everything. That's when you use those reserves. It's important to keep them. It's important to have them.
And we've never used those reserves to start building or opening schools up or going crazy spending on secondary things. It's always been for purposes like this.
Absolutely. The next one, again, on a staffing issue, we are holding off on some positions and you'll see in the next page, but right now we are reducing the maintenance position that we had the upgrade in, and that title, because that title was upgraded, and we are increasing a 0.5 nursing. We have done a lot of conversations with Peggy Barrier. As you know, more and more children come to schools with more and more severe medical needs and medical issues. And it's not an area where we have a lot of subs, where we have a lot of people. So we are increasing. We currently have a 0.5 position. We would like to increase that to a full-time position. And according to Peggy, that would be very appreciated by our nursing staff, and it would really put us in a much safer place in terms of the rotations that we have there. So that's really the only increase in staffing for next year, is that 0.5 nursing. Ed, if you could lift up to the next one. If you see there, we had 6 elementary positions. 4 of them had been carried over from last year. 2 of them are 2 less sections that we will need based on the projections for next year. So those 6 positions will be eliminated. 4 of those are currently encumbered but not filled. And the reduction of 2, we already have 2 retirements at the elementary level. So therefore, there's no need for any layoffs in reducing those positions. In turn, we will be increasing at the secondary level. As you know, the last few years when we've had to make budget cuts, we've taken a lot from the middle school and high school. And right now we have next year, our 3rd of our 3 largest grades. 2 of them are over 700 at this point. The other one is flirting with the 700. Those 3 grades will be at North Rockland High School next year. So therefore, an increase in each of the academic areas is really needed to run the schedule. It's not that we're even lowering class size. Class size will still be high, but we need those positions to even be able to run the schedule next year. So we will be increasing 1 English, 1 math, 1 social studies, 1 science, 1 technology, and 1 world language. You're actually appointing a technology position tonight, but that's for a retirement that we also have in technology. We do have in the budget an art position, possibly an ENL reading split position, and a possible instructional tech and a social worker. We're holding on to those positions because we don't consider them right now of extreme need to be able to run our schedule and to run our services. Okay. And should we have those quarterly reductions, that's where those reductions will come from. So if things get better next year in the middle of the year and we see that we're stable and there's going to be no reduction in aid, we can certainly fill those positions later on. But right now we're kind of holding those positions at bay in case that we need to make another reduction mid-year. And so you'll see there the increase of 0.5 in registered nurse, the decrease in the maintenance mechanic 1 position, for a total increase of 0.5 right now that we'll be hiring.
Okay.
Ms. Decker, back to class sizes just for a moment.
Yep.
In those numbers that are 700 plus, is that the largest class we've ever had in our history?
You know, I think when Harry was assistant principal at the high school, his last year there, he had a class that was in the 700s. But yes, that is pretty atypical for us. Usually our cohorts are in the mid 500s to mid 600s. These 3 cohorts have been in the high 600s, and the current 9th grade is over 700 right now.
The high school is maxed out at that point.
Yes, they pretty much are. It's interesting how our enrollment goes, because after this year's 7th grade class coming, K to 5, all our cohorts are in the mid to low 500s. So for some reason, we have a bubble going through now of the current 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade classes. Once those classes go through, the rest of the classes that are coming in are in the low to mid 500.
So what happened in 2008, I guess?
I don't know, Robert.
Nothing.
I don't know.
Well, the economic decline, that's right. So
Maybe the stock
Yes.
market crashed.
There you go. People laid off at home.
And we're gonna have another boom this
Yeah, we
year.
better be careful this time around too.
I know.
20 years from now,
Interesting to
whoa.
see what happens 5 years from now.
Right,
The
exactly.
kindergarten class may be very large. So we have to adjust actually our timeline because as you know, the budget and public input session will now be probably 2 weeks later, April 21st, and everything will be dropped down 2 weeks. And that's if we move ahead with a June 1st budget vote. I don't know that the governor might change that again, depending again on what the regulations are for distancing or for being back in public or not. But for now, everything will be moved down 2 weeks. And the budget vote is slated for sometime after June 1st. That's all we know for now. Peggy, I don't know if you've heard anything else through school boards.
Not yet. No, we're
Not
having a conference call on the 14th.
Okay, so maybe we'll know more by then. Any other questions?
Just one question back on the very first slide for the zero increase, all the way back where that number was in red. Might have been the first slide. I
No,
think
I
it was,
think the next one, Ed,
yeah, the next one, that's correct.
that one.
Okay, so on the very bottom where it says 2.35 in red, would it make more sense to put 0 in red there, and then the sentence below would have the 2.5? Because the projected is 0, but am I thinking in reverse? I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, the allowable, if we go by what we would be allowed to go up this year, staying within the cap, our allowable increase would have been $3.5 million, which would represent a 2.35% increase. Instead of that, what we're proposing as a board and as a central office is that we go up 0% on the tax levy, $0, 0% increase. So what we're allowed to do is in red on top, Robert. What we're actually proposing is in blue on the bottom.
Okay, so we should keep the red number in that box.
Yeah, because I think it's important for people to know that we would have been legally allowed to increase by that amount.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
All right. Now, another thing that we have pressing among the many interesting scenarios that we have coming up on a daily basis is how we're going to handle grading for the third and fourth quarters. As you know, the second quarter ended at the end of January. So the first week in February is the beginning of the third quarter. So we were barely about 5 weeks into the third quarter when this all hit. And we really we've done a lot of talking about it ourselves. We've done a lot of talking about it with our administrators, with our coordinators, but we really wanted to include the voice of teachers in that conversation. And Dr. Felicello sent out a survey to our teachers to get their input on how they viewed, doing this. There's no good way. There's winners and losers, no matter what scenario you look at. But we want to be most fair to our students, and we felt that our teachers are closest to that work and really wanted their input as to how they felt we could most fairly, grade students. And this is really more for the secondary, 7th and 8th, and the high school. Because our elementaries are on 2 report cards, so they wouldn't get another report card until the end of June anyway. But our secondary students, our Fieldstone students, and our high school students were due to get a report card just about now. So I'll let Dr. Felicello tell you the results of that survey and what we're thinking of recommending as a solution for this.
Yeah, like Mrs. Eckert said, we had started conversations with the administrative team at the high school and the middle school, and Mike and Anthony talked with the coordinators, and came up with a bunch of different scenarios and different ideas that we were all really wanted to talk to the field and see what our teachers' feelings were on this as well. So we put a survey out last week, and we had about 250 of the teachers from Fieldstone and the high school complete it. So we had good participation in that. We had 3 scenarios. The first one, marking period, would be a pass-fail. We had one where we would extend the third marking period by a week, and then we would give grades during that time, but not count. You know, we had the 2 weeks worth of work that was independent work that wouldn't count against kids. But if some teachers would want to offer extra credit for that, they certainly could. But giving kids and teachers that extra week to kind of get some more grades and get acclimated with the home learning process, and then have the fourth marking period. Another scenario, and scenarios 3, 4, and 5 are pretty much the same, but with different calculations. So basically saying we wouldn't report the third marking period. We'd report at the end of the fourth marking period, and that would count as the third and the fourth combined. So combine the third and the fourth, and then count it either one time, as one marking period, 1.5, or the regular 2. So that was options 3, 4, and 5. And then the last option that we put out was that the students would get a regular grade. But if that were lower than the average of the first and the second marking period, then the average of the first and second marking period would supersede that. So the way we did the survey was a kind of a scale where it said 1 if that is a top choice, and 5 if I dislike that choice, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the way I calculated it out was that I added the first 2 columns and then subtracted the last 2 columns to kind of get a score of each of the scenarios. The pass fail, when I did that, was a +8. So there was 8 more people that had it as their first or second choice than people that had, minus the people that had it as their second to last choice or last choice. Scenario 2, which was the one where we would we would just extend the marking period by a week, had a +35. The one where we would add them and count it only once was a -48. Count it 1.5 was a -51. Count it 2.0 was a -16. And then the last scenario that we had said that where you could drop one was a -20. So overwhelmingly, the second option, which is the one where we would just extend the marking period by a week, give the teachers an extra opportunity to kind of get going and acclimated with the whole home learning process. That was the one that was the most positively received by the teaching staff. Interestingly enough, when I first had the conversation with after speaking with Mike and Anthony and the coordinators group, and we did that through the coordinators meeting, that was really the one that was our top choice that we were thinking about recommending, and then kind of said, listen, let's just talk to the field and see if others have, want to give everybody a voice in this. But so that would be the one that we're recommending moving forward with, would be third marking period, extending it 1 week to that would put it at right around May 1st, first weekend of May. It would be while we were still in school for the third marking period, those 5 weeks, those 2 weeks where we were off, that work could be extra credit, but it couldn't count against a student. And then the work that we've done since we've been doing the home learning through the Google Classroom would be combined to be that third quarter grade, but we would get an extra week for that. And then the fourth quarter would begin, and it would be obviously shortened by a week because of the extra week we took to give to the third.
Dr. Felicello,
Yes.
are we sure that every child that needs a computer to do the work has that, so no one is penalized?
Yeah, we've been, that's a very good question, and we've been working really hard. I mean, as you know, Ed and his team from the technology department have handed out, books, but our principals are working with their teachers to reach out to families, or have families reach out to them that maybe are not responsive. But we've been really taking a team approach to calling parents, to whether it's the social workers, whether it's the administrators, whether it's the teachers, to find out what's going on. We certainly wouldn't penalize any students that were unable to get on because of the lack of a device. So we would certainly be, lenient with them and make sure that wasn't something that was going to happen to them.
Okay, thank you.
We Deb, we did a week and 2 days of so a full week, and Monday and Tuesday of last week, Ed and Vinny and Brian gave out about 1,000 Chromebooks and about 30 or 40 hotspots to families that didn't have internet access as well. Ed made several phone calls from the original, email that was sent out and surveyed parents and trying to track people down. People did come for the most part. And, but then we really had to shut it down with things getting, progressively more dangerous for families even to be coming, and cabs and all of that. So now what we've done, like Chris said, we've localized it at the school level, because now the teachers are in touch with those parents and those families, and we'll really get a sense of who really still is out there that needs a device. So anybody that has asked, or parents that have called, we have asked them to get in touch with their building administrator, and each building administrator is now putting together a list of that second round that we will then come up with some appointments again to be able to give out another round of Chromebooks and hotspots if needed.
Okay.
Okay, hi, just Jim. Just generally, both of you, how do you feel that the instruction is going online? I mean, especially in the high school. Where to me it really matters at that stage. How effective has it been? I realize pushing the grading up a week, that's the choice, and it sounds like a good one. But in general, how do you think it's going?
The feedback we've gotten so far has been very positive. Not just in North Rockland, but throughout the county, and people beyond that as well. Our teachers are really starting to grow in this. I think we're getting better every week with the technology, with the different tools that we've been able to use. That a lot of the teachers doing PD on their own. We've been offering different PD. So, I think we're in a couple of weeks, because it keeps getting better and better every day. But I think we're providing the students with a quality educational experience. It's only going to keep getting better.
How does it work? It's Ida. How does it work with the physical ed?
So
Gym
basically, depending on the levels, but really what the special area teachers, phys ed included, are working together as a team to provide activities in those different areas. So the K-3 phys ed teachers come up with different things, activities for the kids at that level, 4, 6, and so on. And it is, some of them are, and you can go on the website too to see the elementary. The high school you can't see on the website, that gets pushed out, but it's outdoor jumping jacks. The coaches are there's some videos that they're leading them on. Sometimes there are different sites they're sending them to. There's things that they can do within the house. So that's they're getting pretty creative, and some of the stuff, it's great that I see on there stuff that whether it's that or anything else I didn't even think of that they could be doing, and they're ahead of the
high school. How are they handling it? Because
I'm sorry, Ida.
the high school, how are they handling it?
Yeah, they're same thing. They're
Same
collaborating, coming up with activities, and then pushing them out through the Google Classrooms.
Okay.
And the music too is happening the same way?
Yeah. Some of them are using different sites. I've seen on I know at Fieldstone and some of the other places, there's different musical sites that they're using. I don't think we've gotten to smart music yet. I don't know if you remember that, Mary, smart music, where the kids would play the instrument, and then there was the microphone on the computer, and it would judge you on that. We want to try to move towards getting back into that, but there are different platforms that they're using for the music.
Very good.
I think our greatest concern, because our older students are certainly familiar with the technology, or they're more self-sufficient and self-directed. I think our greatest concern is at the K-3 level.
Yeah.
Because little guys are young, they're not as self-directed, and if they don't have the support at home, that could be worrisome. So
Yeah, it's
that's something that we'll look at, and we'll have to start looking at, possible summer programs if we are back, hopefully before the end of the year, but certainly looking into summer programs. How do we support that level that we know could possibly be the ones that are losing out the most? And those are such formative years in terms of reading and numeracy. So that's a concern.
Yeah, and I had a meeting today with the special garden was the group that was having the hardest time. The kindergarten students just getting on the devices, and the parents figuring out how to help them. But the high school, as Mrs. Eckert said, when we did a survey, a quick survey when we kind of saw this coming, that our last week in school, to see how many kids didn't have at least some sort of way to get on the internet, and we identified about 40 to 50 students. And those are the first ones that Ed and his team got devices to, so that we made sure that they were on. Now, a kid may have a phone that is their only way to get on, at least initially. So, we're trying to get to those kids, but everybody can, right now, at least in the secondary, should be able to get on.
Ileana,
Yes.
it's Debbie. What will be the plan going forward if we come back in September, and God willing we do? What will be the plan going forward, assessing those kids, and how are we going to get kids back up to speed?
Well, my hope would be, obviously, we're still cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to salvage some of this year. If that doesn't happen, but we do have the summer available, then I would certainly look into some kind of summer programming with the funds that we didn't expend this year. We certainly still have some title money, and we would have to maybe do some aggressive summer programming for the K-3 in particular. And if not, if we don't come back till September, then definitely, our reading staff, our teachers are well trained and well poised, and we will again have to be aggressive with after school programs. We have to capture some of this time back, obviously, for kids. And I think those conversations will be starting now, with Miggy, with Chris, with Taryn. How do we best move forward with those plans into next year, or into the summer if possible?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Robert, you're on.
All right. Thank you, Chris. That was quite a lot of information for updates. I appreciate you staying on top of all that. It's very important. Old business. Any old business?
No.
Okay. Correspondence?
No correspondence.
All right. Thank you. Okay. We're prepared to open up for public comment. If anyone had joined in or wrote a message, we'll certainly read your question now. Mr. Malpe, has anyone asked a question in public? Oh, is Mr. Malpe? Ed?
He might be muted.
Muted, he might be.
Okay. Let's see. Shall I unmute?
Currently, right now, there is no one that's posted a public comment question or a comment yet.
Okay. Anticipating that there probably will not be at this point. You opened that up at the beginning of the meeting, so anyone who joined should have had time. Anticipating that there probably will not be at this point. You opened that up at the beginning of the meeting. Okay, then we'll close on public comment, and we'll go to the next item, which is BOCES budget and BOCES trustees. Mrs. Zuckerby, would you like to read that?
You said the election, the approval of the 10.02, right?
Yeah, the budget.
Where at?
10.01 first, 10.01.
10.01, sorry.
I
Well,
thought
that's the trustee. She's one of them.
Yeah.
All right.
you need to read 10.02.
Okay, so who would like to read 10.01?
I'll do it, Robert.
All right, Mr. Fernandez, thank you.
Resolved, I'm sorry. Let me,
You had
BOCES budget and BOCES trustees. Recommendation action. Resolved that the Board of Education of the Haverstraw Stony Point Central School District hereby casts its vote for Deborah P. Gaddy, Michael Mark, and Peggy Zugerby for the positions of trustee. Wherein Deborah P. Gaddy is to succeed herself on the Rockland County Board of Cooperative Educational Services. At large board vacancy, term of office be July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. And Michael Mark is to succeed himself on the Rockland County Board of Cooperative Educational Services. Terms of office to be July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. And Peggy Zugerby is to succeed herself on the Rockland County Board of Cooperative Educational Services. Terms of office to be July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. May I have a second by the whole board?
So,
Second.
Okay.
second,
Second.
And any discussion? All in
Thank
favor?
you for your service. Thank you for their service on the boards.
thank you.
Yeah.
Aye,
Uh,
yeah.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for your service.
good, great job.
Okay, now, Mrs. Zugerby, if you'd like to read 10.02.
Okay. Whereas in 1993, there was enacted Chapter 295 of the laws of 1993, which amended the provisions of the education law concerning the budgeting process for the boards of cooperative educational services. And whereas it is necessary under such laws to obtain approval from the boards of education of the component school districts concerning the tentative administrative budget for the Board of Cooperative Educational Services for the sole supervisory district of Rockland County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Haverstraw Stony Point Central School District, as a component school district, hereby authorizes the Board of Cooperative Educational Services for the sole supervisory district of Rockland to expend the sums set forth in the tentative administrative budget, and the tentative administrative budget is hereby approved for the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Zugerby. May I have a second by the whole board?
Yes.
Second.
yes,
Mhm.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes 7-0. Okay. Number 11.
one.
Mr. Malpe, I'm not sure what is on the screen right now. Do we have the agenda back on the screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so it's just my screen that's off. Okay. National Library Week.
I mean, I do see this if you want me to read this one.
Oh, you have it, Jim? Yes, please.
Yeah, I didn't realize this is the first time I've been able to get on this way and everything comes up.
Sure, great.
Okay. Whereas libraries provide free access to all, from books and online resources for families to library business centers that help support entrepreneurship and retraining. Whereas, let me get some more light, excuse me. Whereas our nation's school, academic, public, and special libraries make a difference in the lives of millions of Americans today, more than ever. Whereas librarians are trained professionals, helping people of all ages and backgrounds find and interpret the information they need to live, learn, and work in a challenging economy. Whereas libraries are helping level the playing field for job seekers, with 88% of public libraries providing access to job databases and other online resources. Whereas libraries are places of opportunity, providing programs that teach all forms of literacy, promoting continuing education, and encouraging lifelong learning. Whereas in times of economic hardship, Americans turn to and depend on their libraries and librarians. Whereas Libraries, librarians, library workers, and supporters across America are celebrating National Library Week now. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the North Rockland Central School District, along with Ileana Eckert, Superintendent of Schools, proclaim National Library Week, April 19th to the 25th, 2020. We encourage all residents to visit the library this week to take advantage of the wonderful library resources available at your library. Create your own story at your library. And I just have a comment. A number of us are going to talk about how access to the libraries is still available. Last night, my book club from Tompkins Cove Library met online. And the only thing that was any different from our personal meetings in the library was online. We had only 80% gossip as opposed to 20%.
Okay, very good. So may I have a second on that motion?
So moved,
Okay, so moved.
seconded.
Okay, any further discussion?
I would just like to say that I take advantage of the library all the time. Of course, when I can go in, I do, but there's so many resources, like as was stated in that piece, there are wonderful opportunities to take books out, whether they're on your Kindle device or on another device, or if you want to listen to a book. There's really wonderful resources that the library has to offer, even though we can't physically go into the libraries at this time.
I would like to just say that a lot of people may not know that those that are physically disabled, a lot of the libraries have a program where you tell them the books you would like. When they get, they'll mail them to you, and then you just mail them back. So if you're unable to physically get to a library, that option is available at a lot of our local libraries.
Okay. Where are we at? I think we are all in favor on that.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed on the National Library? Vote motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Next item is Volunteer Appreciation Week. Mrs. Gaddy, do you have that in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Through countless acts of kindness, generosity, and service, Americans recognize that we are all bound together, that we move this country forward by giving of ourselves to others and caring for those around us. Every day, Americans carry forward the tradition of service embedded in our character as a people. As we celebrate National Volunteer Week, we embrace our shared responsibility to one another and recommit to the task of building a more perfect union. By performing acts of service, we can shape a nation big enough and bold enough to accommodate the hopes of all our people. Across our country, volunteers open doors of opportunity, pave avenues of success, fortify their communities, and lay the foundation for tomorrow's growth and prosperity. They are often equipped with few resources and gain little recognition. Yet because of their service, our country is better and a stronger force for good. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of the North Rockland Central School District, along with Ileana Eckert, Superintendent of Schools, do hereby proclaim April 19th through April 25th, 2020 as National Volunteer Week. We call upon all residents to observe this week by volunteering in our community and pledging to make service a part of their daily lives. And I just want to add that many people don't know that the Board of Education is actually a volunteer service to your community. So I thank everyone who in the past and in the future who will step up to do this work.
And I'd like to second that motion. Peggy.
Okay, may I have second by the rest of the board?
Yes,
Yes.
second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0 for Volunteer Appreciation Week. Thank you, Mrs. Gaddy. We have retirements. The first one is Carmen Acosta. Would you like to read that, Mrs. Manini?
Sure. Carmen Acosta. Whereas Mrs. Carmen Acosta has served in North Rockland Central School District with dedication of a total of 20 years, and whereas she has submitted her resignation for retirement purposes, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby accepts with deep regret the resignation of special subject ENL teacher effective June 26, 2020, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education wishes Ms. Acosta and her family much happiness in her future.
Thank you, Ms. Manini. May I have a second by the whole board?
Yes.
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 Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And may I, motion passes 7-0, and we wish Ms. Acosta a very good, happy retirement. The next one, Mrs. Romano, if you would.
Sandra
Sandra.
Cat. Whereas Miss Sandra Cat has served the North Rockland Central School District with dedication for a total of 6 years, and whereas she has submitted her resignation for retirement purposes, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, hereby accepts with deep regret the resignation of Sandra Cat, Assistant to the Coordinator of School Transportation 2, effective September 1st, 2020, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education wishes Ms. Cat and her family much happiness in the future.
Okay, thank you. May I have a second by the whole board?
Yes.
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I want to wish Miss Sandra Cat very happy retirement. And Mr. Fernandez, would you read Mrs. Varya?
Yeah. Yes, it's an honor and pleasure to read this. Whereas Miss Margaret Varrier has served the North Rockland Central School District with dedication for a total of 15 years, and where she has submitted her resignation for retirement purposes, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of Superintendent of Schools, hereby accepts with deep regret the resignation of Margaret Varrier, registered nurse schools, effective June 30th, 2020, and be it further resolved that the Board of Education wishes Mrs. Varrier and her family much happiness in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Fernandez. May I have a second by the whole board?
Yes.
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 Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Masiello, I'd just like to say, on behalf of the Board of Education, Mrs. Varrier was an outstanding nurse that was always willing to go above and beyond, always had a smile, always eager to help, always solution-oriented. I love, over the years, I remember getting those messages when there's an incident with the school bus or some other incidents that we always heard, Peggy Varrier is at the scene. She's always there and always willing to help out, and she's done a phenomenal job with her and her team. And also, as it was said earlier, nursing, this isn't going back 25 years ago. It's a much different world. There's a lot of students with many needs and many challenges and a high demand for their services. And she's done she's an effective nurse and an effective leader. And we wish her happiness in her retirement.
Well, thank you, Mr. Fernandez. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I want to wish Mrs. Varrier a very happy retirement, and everyone who may not be at this meeting, at least it's recorded. We want to give all three of those retirees an applause. So congratulations.
If I may, Mr. Masiello, all three people that are retiring, and we certainly wish them the best. They're great losses to the district. Both Carmen has been a phenomenal ENL teacher, very caring, very dedicated. When it comes to Sandy Cat, although she's only been with us for 6 years, she's been invaluable in our transportation department. She's both, I would think Teresa would agree with me, her right and left hand. So definitely is going to be a huge loss to our transportation department, and she will be very missed and hard to fill. And Peggy, I think, Rich, you said it well. They don't come more dedicated than Peggy Barrier. Throughout this whole crisis, she's been on the forefront. She's been working with the county nurses. We finally opened our daycare for first responders with the YMCA in the lead. And Peggy put herself there to take the first turn, to be the first nurse, not only in our own, but visiting the Nyack daycare when they opened ahead of us to see how it was going. And she's been, again, forefront and on all the initiatives that have had to do with this closing, from getting medications returned to students and leading that effort, to helping us put together packets for the first set of packets that went to students, to now being on the forefront of serving in the daycare. And, for all her years in the district, not only as the nurse in fields, but now heading the nursing department, she's been exemplary in her work with the district. So she will be sorely missed and very hard to replace, for sure.
Thank you, Mrs. Eckert. So now we're going to the consent agenda. Use of the consent agenda permits the Board of Education to make a more effective use of time by adopting a single motion to cover those relatively routine matters which are included. Any member of the board who wishes to discuss a particular piece of business on the consent agenda may so indicate that item, and it will be transferred to the regular agenda for consideration and a separate vote, thus preserving the right of all board members to be heard on any issue. So may I have a motion on the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, Mrs. Romano, second by Mrs. Manini. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes 7-0. We're going to go to adjournment and,
Mr. Masiello, before we do
Yes.
that, is there anybody on tonight that happens to have been appointed to a new position?
I
We
was
would
going
love
to
to hear from them.
I wonder who I'm talking about.
I've been good. I've been muted the whole
Introduce
time.
yourself and tell us where you're going to be.
Yes, could you please let us know where you're going to be, Mr. Zolo?
Apparently with you guys a lot. That
I'll help you.
So you better get used to it, bud.
we're looking very much forward to it. Very much forward to it.
Congratulations, Anthony.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I just wanted to, the kids wanted to say hello and thank you very much. I'll just give them a second. They're coming over. They've been waiting
Oh,
patiently.
that's so nice.
see anybody. What's going on?
I can't see anybody either. Mr. Mulpey, could you
Mr.
put us
Mulpey.
all up together?
There, I see you, Debbie.
Melissa, come
I
on.
see you,
Yeah,
Peg.
Oh, there you are. I saw Anthony for a minute.
I know. Oh, hi.
Hey, they can- Hi, guys. That's it.
Hey,
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations.
That's it.
are you sure that's everyone,
Congratulations.
Mr. Solo? Is that everyone?
We got everyone. We did.
Yep, you did.
Congratulations.
Thank you all so much.
Hey.
Congratulations.
Actually, congratulations, Anthony. I know you will be very successful in your next position as well. I hope your family gets a good look at you because they won't see you much come August. But
The kids are cheering now. Yay!
Some of them, yeah.
They should, though.
not as much as Tracy back there. Cheering them on. But honestly, also appointed tonight, as we said, was Patrick Karnick, our technology teacher. Very excited. He had student taught with us. Very excited about getting him back. Alexandra Vepulis, who has been a long-term sub with us and is now going into a permanent position. And also John Phillips. I don't know if he's listening. I know last
Yay, John.
Yay for John.
I told John that, he had overwhelming support. Not that there wasn't a strong candidate pool for that position. There certainly was. But John, as we know, knows the high school like the back of his hand. And we all couldn't have thought of a better candidate to fill Ossie's position. Ossie also had great dedicated service to the district, but I'm confident that John will fill that position just as well, if not better. And we're very excited to have him on board.
We are. Congratulations.
Congratulations to him.
Congratulations to all.
Yeah.
And thank you, Mrs. Gaddy, for reminding me about that. And I guess we're going to adjourn into executive session for personnel and confidential matters, in contract, I'm sorry. And to everyone, we're going to have to leave this meeting and then rejoin with a new invitation.
Okay. So
I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
who was that? Ida? Peggy and Debbie.
Peggy and Debbie, you could put. Me
Okay.
and Mary have been on a
Okay.
lot.
Any further discussion? Anyone knows that we have to leave this meeting and sign on again, correct?
You have an
Okay.
invite from Chris,
With Chris? Okay.
an invite from Chris.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
it came at
Is it-
3:40.
Is he in our email?